Okay, hello everybody, welcome back. Still talking about my project. I'm probably going to upload this every day. I haven't decided yet. Sorry if you saw that pop up in the bottom right. I'm downloading some games. So right now I'm going to go over the first few screens. So I'm going to go over the main menu. The Sans RPG is because it's all in Comic Sans, by the way, not the game character. Load game, going to go over this a little bit. That's kind of difficult. New game, we'll go over the character creation, and there's no options screen, so we won't go over that. That'll be enough though. So we add adds character creation on main menu. All right, so you'll see a similar constructor, at least at the top, of every TK class in this project. Each initializer needs a reference to the game. It's really important because you need information. Okay, this one, not sure I need it. I only need it for changing the screen in the GUI handler. Oh, my phone keeps going off, I'm sorry. That's the only reason I need game in the main menu. But we need fonts. So this is for the title. The title font is the one for the title. If you didn't catch on, and the button font is the one for the buttons. I just named them title font, button font, so I would know what they are. Geometry. This is what I talked about earlier with the window info. It's setting the size of the window, and I also have a min size set on these, mostly because some of my GUIs didn't fit, and I know some screen resolutions aren't even this big, and this will take up a lot of the screen, but that's okay. And then I set the title to procedural. Is that spelled right? Yeah, rule. It's procedural. Euro. That's probably spelled wrong. Anyway, I made a function for. I go back and forth on whether I want to add a method for each type of widget or each section of the window. So for here, I didn't have a lot, so I just did it by widget. So we add the labels, we add the buttons. Pretty straightforward stuff. Organizing the grid, just adding all the stuff to the grid, and then configuring their own grid so it fits. And then we have some button commands here. So new button, the command is open car creation, self.game.GUI handler, swap GUI, character creation. So here's another instance that we saw in the GUI handler where we're swapping the GUI to a new index, and that's just character creation. Excuse me. And that's indexes, that's the first index in the array, which if we go to the GUI handler and this big array, 1 is the character creation screen. So it creates a new instance of that, and if we hit load, then it'll open the load screen, which again, if we go to GUI indexes, is number 8, because I implemented it a lot later. If we go to here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, load screen. Perfect. And then closing the app is the exit button, and that just destroys the app. Pretty simple stuff for the main menu. So now I'll go to the character creation. Oh gosh. If you work with Python and tkinter at all, you might struggle to get through this. This was the first main thing I did on this project, and it's not good. I'll tell you that much. It works, but it is ugly. So I'm gonna collapse all these real quick. Oh gosh. Why? I hate it. Look at this grid. Okay. Man, I'm downloading a lot of games, huh? All right, so first we this is the same thing like I said before. We get a reference to the game, we get our font set up, we get our geometry updated, and we get the window title and the min size, and then we add our labels. Now let me pull up this GUI here. New game. This is character creation. So you can, if you've worked with like tkinter or any GUI, you can already see, you can see the layout. There's a big title up here that takes up the whole thing. There's an enter name and an entry box, stat points left, and another label to see how many there are. There's buttons to add and subtract. Pretty straightforward. You need logic so that you can't click above. When you don't have any stat points left, you can't over allocate and you can't under allocate. So if there's 0, you can't click the minus, and you can only create a character once the stat points left is 0. That stuff's pretty straightforward. The way I did these 4 numbers is awful. So I thought that when you have a text variable for a label, it could only be a string variable. So I started out, I used string variables for these integers. So what you'll see is, let's see if I can line it up right. So the title text, new character, that's right here. Enter name, stat points, and then this stat point, self.stat points right here is a label with self.points, which is right here. That's this one. Starts out as 5 because you can allocate 5 points. And then I did the same with strength amount, agility amount, intelligence amount. And they're all strings, but they're really integers. And that's my least favorite part about this entire project. I think that's the worst thing I did, is I stored information that was an integer in a string variable. Just because I didn't understand tkinter yet. I wasn't into the flow. So if we, those are pretty straightforward. Those are labels. I only had this one entry, which is a string variable, which it's supposed to be because you're typing a string. Now our buttons, adding and subtracting each attribute, and then the create character in the back button. And those are pretty straightforward, but these commands, so for sub strength, the subtract strength button, the command is subtract strength. If we go here, we have to get the amount of strength, cast it to an int. Well, this is a string variable, so we have to use get to get the value of the variable. We have to cast that to an int, add 1 to it, and now I'm just setting it to an integer. I didn't even cast it back to a string. And I did the same thing here with the points. I cast it to an int, subtract 1, and then set it to an integer. But every time you get it, it's a string because it's a string variable. So every time I get these, I have to cast it to an int, which is really dumb. And then you'll see this update buttons, which is probably, yeah, this is all the logic. So if our, see, here we go, I have to cast it to an int here. If our strength amount is 0, disable the subtract strength button, otherwise activate it. And I just did that for agility intelligence. If the points are 0, disable all the add buttons and activate the create character button. But if they're all, but if we have points left to allocate, then I'll make all the add buttons active and the create character button disabled. Pretty straightforward. Just adding our grid here. There's a lot of stuff to put on the grid. I don't even want to look at that because I'm sure that I did all of the sticky things wrong. Now this one, that's an ugly line right there. So I'm setting the game's player. The game, if you remember, has a player variable. Where was that? Character creation. So I'm setting that equal to a new player with the name and strength, and I have to get the strength amount, I have to get the value of it, and I have to cast it to an int for all 3 attributes. And that turns out that's all I needed to set for the player. And then I just swap it to the town screen. And that's all I have to do to create the character. And then back, of course, just goes back, which in this case will be to the main menu every time. That's going to be it for this video. It took a little longer than I thought it would. But next time I'll go over the load screen, I think. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you are interested in more about this project, and I will see you next time.